Hello and welcome to this video. Today's installment is just to provide a little bit of context and to preface what has been going on in the Civil War prior to the point at which we start looking at the Latin text that Caesar has written about the Battle of Pharsalus. In coming up with a summary, I realized that I could not do better than what E.C Kennedy has written in his commentary on Book 3 of Caesar's Civil War. So I'm just going to read out part of what he's written, along with some contextual notes, just to help understand a little bit of some of the things he refers to and people he refers to. So, Kennedy has written, Caesar at once took the decisive step of crossing the Rubicon, the river which was the limit of his province, with 13th Legion, and when Pompey decided to abandon Rome, Caesar swept through Italy almost unopposed. Now, the Rubicon River, it's in Italy, obviously. Probably not as far north as people think it would be, considering it is the border between Italia and the province of what was then Cisalpine Gaul. So it's a fairly small river, flows westwards from the Adriatic coast towards Florence, a little bit above the enclave of San Marino in modern Italy. So you can see there a lot of northern Italy, like Romagna, Emilia, Liguria, Venezia. These regions, or the area they cover, at the time were not officially considered to be part of Italia. And the people, so this handsome chap is Caesar, and this fellow here is Pompey. His full name, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus. The Magnus meaning great. He gave it to himself in all humility. There we are. Corfinium held out for a time against Pompey's orders. So this was under the command of Domitius Ahenobarbus, who we will meet in the text. But it soon surrendered, and most of the troops in it joined Caesar's army. The rest of Italy was soon in Caesar's hands, though Pompey managed to escape from Brundisium just in time, crossing to Greece to raise an army in the east. Now, the east is a fairly large area. So several modern countries comprise what was considered the East at this time. And so we have, in addition to Greece itself, the Aegean Isles, Crete, Rhodes, Cyprus, Turkey, Armenia, part of northern Syria, part of northern Iraq, Lebanon, Israel, Gaza, Egypt. Even parts of Azerbaijan and Georgia were obligated to Pompey as clients. And so it's a fairly large area. I mean, Pompey has decided to go east basically as a huge area from which to draw manpower, to draw supplies, to draw money, and to draw fleets. So at this time, there are many, many sort of small independent kingdoms or city-states. And so, to a greater or lesser degree, all of these are obligated to support Pompey and give him whatever it is that he's asking for at the time. Now, Corfinium is roughly where modern Corfinio is in Italy, so roughly central Italy. This is the point where resistance to Caesar's advance stops. And from there, it's basically a race for Pompey to escape Italy to join his forces in the east. So really in what is modern Albania. And Caesar just misses Pompey at Brundisium, which is modern Brindisi. And so just to give a little bit more context, so we've got Brindisi on the left. So again, roughly the area where ancient Brundisium was, and Pompey's sailed across the Adriatic to Dyrrhachium, which is modern Daraz, or again, roughly modern Daraz, on the west coast of Albania. So in the east, the scene of his former triumphs. So That whole area, Pompey previously had defeated the kings of Pontus and Armenia, and so he's inherited a huge clientele from these victories. After setting up a provisional government at Rome, Caesar crossed to Spain, where after a campaign of only 6 weeks, he compelled the Pompeian army under Petreius and Afranius, the latter of whom we will also meet soon, to surrender at Ilerda in northeastern Spain. Now, Ilerda, roughly where modern Lleida is now in Catalonia, this is midway between Zaragoza and Barcelona. And so Caesar's decided, because he just missed Pompey in Italy, instead of following him to Greece, he's going to go to Spain instead to deal with Pompey's veteran legions there. And this is what he does. He then returned to Rome as dictator. Book 3 of the Civil War begins at this point. Was elected consul for 48, so that's 48 BC. And the consul is one of the 2 chief magistrates in the Roman Republic who were elected annually. The dictatorship is an unusual emergency office. There are several dictators in Rome's history up to this point. Unlike a modern conception of dictatorship, it was a legitimate office. And up to this point, again, every dictator, so far as I know, had given up their power voluntarily. So there had been a dictator in Caesar's lifetime, Cornelius Sulla, who, despite the massacre of his enemies and the fairly heinous reputation which he acquired thereby, nonetheless gave up his power voluntarily. So he's elected consul for 48 and followed Pompey to Greece with a much smaller army. So he's followed Pompey to, well, what Kennedy calls Greece, modern Albania, so Duraz on the west coast. Although the Pompeian fleets controlled the sea and the rest of Caesar's troops under Antony, so that's the famous Mark Antony of Cleopatra fame, had great difficulty in crossing over and joining him, Caesar decided on the bold course of blockading Pompey near Dyrrhachium with much inferior numbers, since he could not force him to fight a pitched battle. So again, Dyrrhachium is modern Duraz in Albania. Both sides built elaborate lines of fortification with Pompey on the inside by the sea, and the deadlock lasted several months, until Pompey made a gap at the extreme south of the lines and broke through, inflicting a fairly serious loss on Caesar, which he failed to follow up, thus losing his chance of finishing the war at once. Caesar now moved southeastwards into Thessaly, joined by Domitius. This is a different Domitius to the one mentioned above. I think this is Domitius Calvinus, with another army, and waited for Pompey at Pharsalus. Pompey had unwisely determined not to return to Italy and consolidate his position there, but to pursue Caesar through Greece. Now, to go back to that map, so on the left we have Brindisi, Brundisium. In the middle we have Duraz, Dyrrhachium. And southeastward, so towards the bottom right, is the modern city of Pharsala, which is roughly the site of ancient Pharsalus. And so that region around it, and particularly to the north, you see Larissa, which is or was the principal city of the Thessaly region. This is where we're talking about now. So when we start the text, this is where Caesar and Pompey are facing off. They've gathered together all of the forces that they can gather together and are about to fight the decisive engagement. And so that's it for introduction context. It really is just an introduction to what has happened in the Civil War, not the political tussle that preceded it. Hopefully that helps you understand not only what has happened, but also provide a little bit more context for when we look at the Latin text that Caesar has handed down. So hopefully that was interesting and somewhat helpful as well. So stay safe, take care, and toodle pip.